Welcome to Tanked Up. We've been playing the Star Wars Battlefront multiplayer beta. I say multiplayer, but it's all multiplayer, isn't it?
There's a single player. There's even single player in the campaign. There's a campaign mode in the beta.
I suppose. Is there?
Yeah, I tried it out. It was a thing.
Ooh. That's not something I tried out. I thought it was like a co-op mode.
It's single or dual campaign. I've only ever played. It's one mode. Survive 6 waves of enemies. First wave is like 8 stormtroopers in Tatooine, in a craggy rock area of Tatooine. It's a fairly small map, smaller than the escape pod mode.
Yeah.
And then the second wave is they've got shock troopers who take, like you can't just headshot them immediately. It takes a few hits. Mm-hmm. And then the third wave is an ATST.
Nice.
And then fourth wave is jumping stormtroopers. All
Gets
the
progressively
stormtroopers.
harder.
Yeah, and then another ATST with
Excellent.
a couple escape pods in the middle. And then you can't play the harder modes until you beat the easier mode. And there's achievements like surviving any mode without dying, which on the normal mode is really easy, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was boring.
Oh, well, fair enough.
It probably, if I started,
would it have been better had you have been playing it co-op?
Yeah,
with
definitely.
somebody side by side, maybe a couch co-op.
Yeah, or even if I had tried it before doing the actual multiplayer, the meat of the game, because like I'm used to when I'm a rebel having stormtroopers that are actually kind of tough to kill, but this felt much like the movies where you're just like ping, 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 and they miss you a lot.
Yeah. So, as you may have guessed, if you listened to us before, I'm Ben, and I'm joined by Aadil.
Oh, yeah, hey, I sort of
recognise our voices. I know, we went off, we started.
Wow, to be fair, I interrupted you because I was aghast at your notion this wasn't a single-player game, which it clearly isn't.
However, it does seem that if it maybe is a single-player, or there is a single-player element to it, it may not be quite as good as the multiplayer element to it. Yeah. Which is what I have mostly been playing through the beta.
And by mostly you mean solely?
Solely, completely, yeah. I've played both modes. I played the Jakku drop pod map, and I have played the Hoth large battle.
The Battlefield?
Which is very much, which is very much like the rush mode from Battlefield. I've always, for the last few years, I've sort of preferred Battlefield to COD. I preferred that sort of squad-based larger map, slightly more tactical multiplayer first-person shooter, and the Hoth mode gives you that. It seems like they've worked off of their sort of Battlefield experience, whereas the drop pod mode, which is only 8 players, rather than the sort of the 20-player mode on Hoth, is a lot quicker. The games are very fast, the map's a lot smaller. It seems a lot more balanced, and like they put not more time into it, but it seems more focused. They seem to have a very good game mode there, whereas the Hoth one almost seems a little bit unbalanced, and we chatted about it when we did the podcast earlier. But maybe it seems a little bit unbalanced between the Rebels and the Empire. But if you're the Rebels in the Battle of Hoth, in Star Wars canon, it's a very difficult battle.
You mean Star Wars Ion canon?
Ooh. What is it now? Not Star Wars. I suppose it's Star Wars canon, but it's no longer sort of extended universe.
Oh yeah, it's not
whatever they've decided that they're going to recall it with the new films coming out. But yeah, I definitely think I preferred the drop pod game mode versus the Battle of Hoth.
So you preferred the more COD-like experience?
I think so. I think it even though it seemed a bit quicker and it was a smaller map, more similar to COD, I think with the group of players that I was with, because on the beta it constantly keeps you with the same group in the same lobby as such, but just switches you between playing as either the Rebels or the Empire. I just found that with the group of people that I was lucky enough to play with, that both the team I was on and the opposite team seemed to be working as groups you would hang around together. You would they've got a system or a mechanic where you partner up with somebody else.
Which I never. It seems you're paired with a random person for the entirety of the match. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. There is a way of being able to partner up with a friend,
Right.
and be able to play that way. But even partnering up with somebody, I think I was just lucky with the lobby that I got. That I and the person that I was partnered with would sort of stick together and would cover each other and move into position and worked as a team to be able to achieve sort of the game mode.
One I really like with the partner mode that you can spawn at the generic spawn point or spawn at your partner.
Yeah,
I thought that was a very cool mechanic, and it sort of, after a few rounds of playing, you whoever your partner is, you value them because of that. Because if I die, but my partner's where the escape pod is, I can spawn right there. So selfishly, I want them to survive. I thought it was very good game design. I had a couple, I popped in and out, and I had a couple rounds where I was with a good, strong group of people, and a couple rounds where I wasn't. I didn't really feel much tactical combat, even when we were sort of unbalanced. It was more like a couple really good players were cutting about, rather than sort of squad tactics.
Okay.
I also didn't find very much squad tactical play going on in the larger battlefieldy map.
No, I agree with that. It seemed very random.
I feel like
everyone was just sort of running about doing their own kind of thing, definitely.
Yeah, I feel like that mode lends itself to for tactics to be more for tactical play being more have a larger impact.
Yes, definitely.
But
it seems like it should be inherent with the mode.
Also, the 20 user cap is small. The map is still reasonably big, but it feels very desolate because you don't have bots. Like, I don't know if you played Battlefront or Battlefront 2 much, but in Battlefront 2, the Hoth map was big.
Yeah.
Maybe it was fairly crowded when you consider, but the cap was 64 players.
Yeah.
And you could populate with bots. So, like, it felt like an actual battlefield. Like, there were stormtroopers everywhere, and there were rebels everywhere, and there was a lot of dying and shooting, and it felt more alive. This felt very sort of, not
yeah. I can see that, especially when on something like the Hoth map, you might get per side 5 people taken out of the team because they're in vehicles. So on the Empire, you can man an AT-AT, an AT-ST. You can jump in the TIE Fighter or the TIE Interceptor, and you can have a couple of TIE Fighters going around at the same time, a couple of X-Wings going around at the same time on the Rebel side and things. So even though it's a 20-person map, you can find that if all of the vehicles are being used, there are those elements that you've got to sort of take into it, but the vehicles sort of negate each other. You don't have a huge amount of interaction between the vehicles and then the players on the ground, really, unless you're maybe an AT-ST or something like that. But if you're in the sky in some of the vehicles, you're sort of taken out of the match almost, because you're either trying to take down the AT-ATs if you're on the Rebel side, or you're trying to defend them if you're on the Empire side. But then that sort of cuts down the actual people on the map to about 15 people per side, so it takes spawns. Even more people out of it. So.
Right, and then there's a spawn time, so if you die, it's even less populated, and it felt anemic. That's the word I was saying. It's a very anemic feeling map. The mode seems like it has potential, but in this state, I played it a couple times because I felt like I had to the second time, but I didn't really feel like I'd want to go back in, and that might change. If I was a more hardcore player, I'd have a group of people or some sort of forum of people who play these types of things together, and then I would imagine it'd be quite a fun mode. But at this stage, you need to give me more. I really like the capture the moving single use by anyone flag escape pod. I thought that is exactly what Alex was asking for when we were talking about COD.
Yeah,
That's
it was.
an innovative mode. That's a really neat idea. Don't know where it's going to land, so if you have a organized squad, the best approach is to, once the pod's been taken, just spread out like a net and then
disperse and try and
collapse in
cover as
on
much ground as
wherever.
possible.
But again, no one really did that.
Sure. I think I was very lucky on the Jakku map with that, with just the group of people that or the lobby that I managed to fall into. I just found that everybody seemed to stick with their partners, so everybody was going around in pairs, and this wasn't just the team that I was on, it was the same for the opposite team as well. So we had a very good group of sort of like 16 people who were playing the game almost as it sort of is built to be played as. You go around as a pair and you cover each other, and you're able to then move in and take the points and stuff like that. I think the thing I've really taken from the beta is that it feels very Star Wars.
Yes.
The music, the aesthetic, the awful aiming of stormtroopers. It definitely feels very much part of Star Wars.
Yeah, unless you're using a power-up style weapon, like even if you're like shooting someone and have good aim, they don't die right away. Even on I think it's a couple blaster shots depending on the damage output.
Yeah.
To headshot someone, which definitely gives you more of the idea that people are missing you, even if they're not. Because there's just all this laser fire, and a lot of it seems to miss, but it's okay because you're basically strafing with a fairly automatic weapon. With like, it takes a while to overheat these things. Like, you pretty much just have to open it up, and you're doing like cover mechanic style, like you're just shooting for the sake of it, or you're shooting ATST.
Very true. Yeah. You've got to constantly try and not reload, but recharge. I suppose that's one of the things as well, sort of having laser weapons rather than conventional ammo, and not really having a reload. You play in a very different way. You try and shoot in very short bursts. You may then move into cover and then shoot in another short burst. You're not just opening up on people, and having to then wait for that, not reload, but sort of cooldown on your weapon. So it definitely changes sort of the kind of way that you play a first-person shooter game. Really having that different kind of weapon type. Yeah, I suppose.
It's got the modern play a lot, and you unlock better weapons in your quote-unquote rank style play, which I didn't mind so much because the initial gun was reasonably good, although the cycle something, the long range sniper, that was pretty powerful because I got killed a lot by it without even realizing that there were people around.
That would be like one shot cooldown sort of weapon.
I really enjoy the thermal detonators. I thought they were they somehow felt more than a grenade, and maybe it's just sound effects and stuff. But like it felt like a thermal detonator rather than a grenade. I like the when you capture a thing, you can get like one-time use power-ups, like the ion bursts and stuff.
That's cool.
I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to more. I wish it wasn't,
definitely.
Going to be expensive.
It will be. Just to sort of round out the conversation, did you get to use either any of the vehicles or any of the heroes on the Hoth map?
I did not get a hero or vehicles, actually. I just mostly ran around. Just because I only played it a couple rounds and just didn't have the right timing to get into one of the vehicles. So I imagine I don't really know what that map. Maybe that's why I felt like it was desolate and anemic, because I just wasn't in the quote-unquote fun zone.
Yeah. I mean, I got to play in a couple of the vehicles. The AT-ATs are very slow-moving, as they would be, very powerful, but unfortunately the time I was in an AT-AT, it was right at the start of a match, so everybody is not around close. You. And they've disappeared. I had a couple of games where I played either in an X-Wing or a TIE Interceptor, both very fast vehicles, and it's that the vehicle combat is quite nice. It handles very well. It's very much like your N64 Rogue Squadron.
Oh, which is one of my favorite Star Wars games.
Oh, definitely, it is. Yeah, it is one of my favourite Star Wars games, and that felt very nice. It felt very easy to do. It didn't feel difficult in any way. It didn't feel like it would be hard to jump into. But controlled very similarly to some of the vehicles or some of the sort of planes in the Battlefield games.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, it built off of the same tech, the same engine and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, it does definitely make sense. And the only hero I got to play was very short amount of time as Luke Skywalker.
Oh!
I managed to pick the power up. I ran around and killed maybe 2 people on the Empire side. Ran towards an AT-AT thinking, I'll see how this goes. And was instantly crushed underneath the feet of it.
Oh, you got stomped. Even Luke can't withstand giant foot.
Obviously
yeah,
not.
Nice little Monty Python moment.
Yeah, massively.
That's, I guess, another thing that I'm skeptical of. So, my favorite Star Wars game is probably Battlefront 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a little biased. And the vibe is definitely there in this game, but again, because of the player counts, and in Battlefront 2 on a full map, when you got Luke or Vader or someone, you would just churn through people, bots, whatever, characters. You would just you were unstoppable. You would get at least 30 kills, but there's not even 30 people to kill. And it seems like I'm not surprised that you had a sort of meh hero time. I mean, dodging the foot notwithstanding, because there's not a lot to kill. Yeah,
very much. It would be nice to know if, I think with Battlefield 3 and Battlefield 4, they had a smaller player count on console than they did on PC. So on PC, some of the games I think were 32 players a side, so up to 64 players. So it'd be nice to know if they can hit that, and it might be that in some of the game modes that come out, because obviously there's only 2 game modes in this beta.
Right.
It might be nice if some of the other maps are a little bit larger, or not even just larger, they just populate more players. You're able to have lobbies of 64 people.
Yeah, that would definitely
have 32 aside, and make it feel like it is like a battle, rather than a small skirmish between sort of 2 squads of people.
And I think that's the big thing is, well, why do we love Star Wars? Because it's this space epic, sort of part Western, sci-fi adventure epic. The escape pod mode, I can never remember what it's called. It felt like a set piece. Like it felt like you were doing a scene, like a sequence in Star Wars, a small part of a larger story. That's fine, but with Hoth, first of all, it's loaded. It's like it's a huge part of Empire, right? It's the first main chunk, and it opens to this giant battle, and you've got this like empty. You don't get the sense of scale the same. You get the sense of size, but not the sort of importance and like huge battle, because it's mostly empty at this stage.
Definitely.
And I think part of that is that it's a very big map.
Mm-hmm.
For like you said, the AT-ATs, take a while to get to you.
Yeah, definitely. So there are impressions of the Star Wars Battlefront beta. We've been Tanked Up. You can always let us know what you think about the beta on Twitter at tankedup_cast. I am, as always, at Nova_47, and Aadil is always at the Omniarch.
And you can reach us at tankedup.cast@gmail.com.
You certainly can.
Or subscribe to us on YouTube at tankedupcast.
Yes,
and
I believe so.
Facebook/tankedupcast.
You certainly can. Thanks for watching, listening. Take it easy.
Ciao.